Hello, my name is Rakshan Saravanan, and I am currently studying in grade 8 at Frank Punnabaker Elementary School. And this year's project for BASEF is remote learning and social anxiety in teenagers during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the background of this research starts off with a brief description of what social anxiety is, and it being a mental disorder which allows individuals to feel extremely self-conscious and very sensitive to a wide variety of scrutinizations in different social settings such as schools and athletic events. And the SAD is the third most common mental health disorder, just after depression and substance abuse. And that in Canada, roughly 3% of youth and children experience anxiety disorders, and that the lifetime prevalence rate of social anxiety ranges from 8% to 13%. And due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the psychological impacts on adolescents and teenagers reported to be greater than that on adults. Now, the purpose of this study was to see if there was an impact between, or a relation between online learning and remote classes and to those teenagers or adolescents that could have been diagnosed with SAD. And that hypothesis was that plausibly the effects of remote learning could have lessened the effects and symptoms of SAD onto those who are diagnosed with it. The research methodology of this was to, it was an online survey used with the application SurveyMonkey, and that the participants that be conducted with the survey were from a singular school, that being Frank Punnabaker's South Campus, and participants would be aged from 13 years to 14 years of age. And that inclusion criteria, they would have to be willing to participate within the survey, being teenage students, but the exclusion criteria includes being less than 13 years of age. Now, the research design for this was chosen because of the relatively small number of the population, which would make it relatively easier to analyze and further find a correlation and data. Now, the results of this, 40 students were participated in the survey, roughly an equal amount of both being male and female participants, and an average age of those who participated were 13 and a half years of age, and all participants were studying in grade 8. Roughly 60% of those who participated in the survey found it not comfortable when speaking into a teacher in remote school when compared to that of in-person. Much more students were not comfortable when asked a question during remote school when compared to in-person. Contrastingly, students were less comfortable in in-person school when asked a question to them, when compared to only a 50% when in remote learning. And that a majority of the students found it challenging to speak in front of the class to the teacher during remote learning compared to in-person school. And that a vast majority of those found it extremely difficult to partake in physical education in front of their peers during the events of remote learning when compared to in-person school. Now, among 54 students of the two classes that had participants, only 40 students of those participated in the online survey. The overall findings suggest that students were not at all comfortable in remote school, and that 60% of those participants were actually experiencing SAD or SAD-like symptoms, and remote learning may have caused an even worsening impact upon them, and that students were extremely anxious when physical, and the evidence of this was that when students were extremely anxious to doing a physical activity in a remote school setting in front of their peers. The overall findings suggest that most students in grade 8 are actually experiencing social anxiety, and addressing their symptoms may actually improve their participation within school and school activities and plausibly enhance their learning. Now, the limitations of this study could be at one, that there was only 2 classes that participated in the survey due to COVID-19 restrictions, and the school students who were already in remote learning were not included. And the gender of the participants were not collected, the survey cannot highlight the differentiation of anxiety levels between the 2 genders. And I personally like to thank our science teacher, Mr. Jason Kortman, for the grade 8 students of the 2 classes, and who allowed this to be possible, including those participants whose without the data could have not been collected. Thank you.